Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new edition of the Daily Debate. In tonight's show, we're going to be focusing on some of the presidential initiatives, also on the social protection programs, really trying to ensure a proper sustainable development that aims to be achieved by the year 2030. That's Egypt's vision and goal in specific. We're going to be looking at the performance and the prospects of these initiatives and programs. But before we start doing that, let's check out the main story making the news today. And it's Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry, who held talks with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Moscow on Tuesday. At a joint press conference following the talks, Shoukry affirmed that Egypt and Russia aim to enhance bilateral relations to service the interests of their peoples. The top diplomat pointed that the size of the commercial exchange had increased. Concerning the Palestinian cause, Shoukry stressed on the necessity of avoiding any violence escalation to reach a permanent and just settlement of the Palestinian issue. For his part, Lavrov said both countries had agreed on a number of investment projects such as the Daba nuclear station project and the Russian wheat deliveries to Egypt. The Russian minister emphasized that there is military cooperation and joint drills between both countries. Lavrov said they had discussed means of settling the financial Libyan crisis and the need for inter-Libyan dialogue among parties. Regarding the Syrian file, Lavrov said the two countries aim to reach reconciliation among the Syrian parties. As for the escalating situation in the occupied Palestinian territories, the Russian minister reiterated that Cairo and Moscow aim to reach a comprehensive settlement to the Palestinian cause. He pointed that Russia had displayed the current stance in the Ukraine crisis upon a request from Egypt. This was the main story making the news today, but now focusing on tonight's topic in the Daily Debate. Now, we're going to be looking at some of the social programs and the presidential initiatives, and Tahya Masr Fund has actually contributed by about £22 billion in different sectors nationwide. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met with the Presidential Advisor for Financial Affairs, Major General Mohammed Amin, to follow up on activities and contributions of the Tahya Masr Fund. The meeting reviewed contribution of fund's activities in supporting the process of development and social protection programs. In a statement, the presidency announced that contributions provided by the fund have amounted to £22 billion in various sectors nationwide, including £7 billion for urban development and alternative housing. The allocated funds also include £11.5 billion for healthcare, such as measures related to the coronavirus pandemic, as well as the various health initiatives and medical devices in hospitals. Moreover, the fund has allocated £1.3 billion for social protection initiatives and economic empowerment, and £1 billion for the cases of emergency and natural disasters. This in addition to £530 million for education, £400 million for securing job opportunities, £400 million for investment, and £200 million for the gifted care program. The President directed the Tahya Masr Fund to continue providing contributions and enhancing activities and social protection programs within the framework of the fruitful partnership with government agencies, civil society organizations and the private sector in order to mobilize the state's own capabilities as one of the tools for development and to face societal challenges, also within the framework of the state's strategy to support and meet the needs of the most vulnerable families and improve services provided to them. President el-Sisi said this would mobilize the state's own capabilities as one of the tools for development and face societal challenges within the framework of the country's strategy to support and meet the needs of the most vulnerable families and raise the level of services provided for them. For his part, Amin gave an overview of the fund's activities and contributions and noted its growing vital role in assisting the state agencies to support social protection programs and development projects nationwide, and its many successes in many sectors to improve services and the citizens' standard of living.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and starting off our discussion, we're joined here in the studio by Dr. Nيفين Makaram Lbib, the Director of the Social and Cultural Planning Center, the Institute of National Planning, the INP. Dr. Lbib, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for your kind invitation.
Thank you very much. Dr. Lbib, first of all, before we start talking about the initiatives and the social protection programs, let's just have an overview of the economic situation, and not just in Egypt, but the whole world is suffering from an energy crisis, food crisis, inflation in the prices of commodities, and it seems that everyone's having trouble to make ends meet. However, it's not impossible. Now, how do you view these sort of difficulties affecting the presidential initiatives and the funds and the programs and the development work and projects taking place in Egypt?
Actually, it has a very bad impact, but we're talking worldwide, we're not talking about Egypt, especially that our president always emphasizes that providing a better life for the less privileges is the core of human rights.
Yes.
So that's why the presidential initiatives are also and always focusing on the less privileged. We're talking about special needs, we're talking about elderly people and so on. So I think that although there is a very bad impact of what's going on worldwide, and that's due to external factors that we cannot control,
yes.
Okay, because many people say that maybe we can control it, and sometimes I tell them that we might be able to control internal factors, but when we're talking about war, when you're talking about climate change, then
yes.
that's another story.
And the corona pandemic before
exactly.
that.
So it's been years now of really bad impact.
Yes. Dr. Lbib, now let's start with some of the funds and the social protection programs. Now, we were just hearing in the report that the Tahya Masr Fund, the Long Live Egypt Fund, since its establishment up until now, has invested about £22 billion in different sectors around the country. Now, how effective and how's this money being distributed around different sectors and different industries in Egypt, and how can we make sure and maintain that such a fund, along with the Takaful and Karama, the Solidarity and Dignity Fund, how can all these programs and all these funds make sure that the Egyptian citizen is well taken care of, even though we are going through economic crises?
Okay, actually it's about improving the quality of life. So we're trying to provide better healthcare services, better education, better work opportunities, job opportunities, and so on. So that's why you'll find that all of these funds are directed into these basic needs. We're fulfilling basic needs of people, not only the less privileged, actually, but sometimes it's for the economic growth and for everybody that's living in the country.
Dr. Lbib, now you've mentioned that it's not just for the less privileged or the low-income bracket citizens, but it also targets all citizens for the benefits and the development of their economic and social well-being. Does it make it even harder? I mean, when you look at the more vulnerable part of the society, it's easy to identify exactly what they need, if it's a certain kind of infrastructure or health, insurance or education, because they are in dire need of it. However, but the rest of the Egyptian citizens may vary in terms of need or the necessity for all of these things, but they also need to be covered. Does it make it even harder to try and pinpoint exactly what the rest of the Egyptian population needs?
Yes, and it's not easy. But if you apply what we call the analytics, the data analytics, then you can be able to classify the citizens and to provide them with what we call basic needs. Because basic needs, as you just explained, is not only about providing food or education, but even for all citizens, their basic needs, sometimes it's about having a better quality of life. Not only in terms of, let's say, money, but having style of life that's much better, that's more civilized. So you can identify their needs if you apply this science, the data science, and hence you can provide them with their special needs, or let's say their specific needs.
Yes.
So again, in terms of better education, in terms of job opportunities, and that's how we can make use of the technology.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Decent Life Initiative. Now, the whole concept and the idea of it was established in 2019, and we've already embarked on a first phase, and this year we're embarking on the second phase starting this month. Now, the whole initiative targets over 4,000 villages. Now the second phase is targeting over 1,600 villages. From our experience in the first phase, entering the second phase, what sort of experience did we garner through the first phase that we can actually use for the second phase? Or do we have different challenges? Do we have different goals for the second phase as opposed to the first one?
Yes, definitely. Let's say that the first one was kind of a pilot, and I guess it was successful because you'll find that you lowered the poverty by 2%, and you improved the index of a better life and a better quality of life. And I think that one of the most important things for the first period was emphasizing the importance of healthcare services. So by providing better healthcare services, people were more, they were happier. Because that's a main issue for them.
Yes.
So embarking now in the second phase for those villages ranging from 50 to 70% of poverty, then maybe you can benefit from all of the experience gained in the first phase. I guess many challenges are about talking to people about success stories, because sometimes when you talk about decent life and then people do not have, let's say, a detailed view, they do not know about the numbers. So a program like yours now focusing on this and emphasizing about the numbers and the success and the challenges as well, because we cannot tell people that everything is fine.
Yes.
We're trying to improve their life, the quality of life. We're trying to provide them with better services, but we're faced with many challenges. The infrastructure is a point, the IT infrastructure, the phobia, the perception of people, because sometimes when you talk to people about success stories, and they're kind of pessimistic and they do not even believe you. So maybe we need to focus more on telling them the good things that happen and trying to find possible solutions to the challenges faced.
Do you feel that, Because it seems that people maybe are reluctant to believe and be optimistic of the success stories and the possibilities. So it is a cultural maybe problem or a cultural an awareness sort of challenge. Do you feel that this constitutes one of the main challenges, is trying to work on making their dreams come true, their personal dreams, their dreams of achieving a certain success in terms of having their own business, small and medium enterprises, small projects? Can these be the models that would actually inspire them as well?
Yeah, definitely. But we need to start first by changing their perception. And this is very tough.
Yes.
Okay, because you need them to perceive, to see things as they are. Sometimes, although they're faced with many success stories, they insist on saying things in kind of a bad way. I don't know if I'm...
Yes.
if you've ever faced this while talking to citizens, but some of them are reluctant to saying that things are really getting better.
Yes.
So when faced with these questions, I usually pinpoint the figures. When we talk about 2% less poverty, then now we're talking success. When we're talking about many villages that have a better infrastructure, then it's much better thing for them. When you're talking especially about healthcare, and I'm emphasizing on healthcare because that's my specialization,
Yes.
healthcare informatics, I think that's the most important of even the 17 SDGs. Because if people are not, and they do not have any healthy lives, then you do not expect them to have better education or better job or better anything. I guess that's a core issue.
Yes. Well, you've mentioned the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and Egypt has its own vision to achieve and meet all the SDGs by the year 2030. Now, given all the current circumstances taking place around the world, does it make it more challenging to meet such a goal, a deadline by 2030? And even if so, because we don't want to stop the process of applying and reaching these goals, maybe even if we're going at a slower pace, but it needs to keep going, and we need to keep pushing forward. So do you feel that it's now a main challenge of, you've mentioned the cultural and awareness of the citizens being a challenge. Also, do you feel that it's a challenge of financing, or a challenge of getting not just the private and the public sector here investing, but also using the foreign investment and the foreign expertise? Is a challenge of cooperation and really integrating all the concerned ministries and institutions in implementing these developmental projects?
I think we're faced with many challenges, since again we're talking about external factors that we cannot control. So maybe we can take it from a more positive approach and trying to find alternatives, like what you just mentioned, the partnership. Why don't we make use of not only the public sector but the private sector? Why don't we focus on the CSR,
Yes.
the corporate social responsibilities, and trying to find solutions, better solutions for the problems that we're facing? Why don't we make use of the youth? We can really have some creative ideas, okay, coming
Yes.
out of this, and then trying to implement these ideas using the private sector again. So if we focus on the SDG 17, which is the partnership between private and public sector, then I guess we can find better solutions, or at least more effective solutions for the challenges that we're facing.
Yes. What about the sort of the sectors of society that people are always concerned with and really trying to empower? As you've mentioned, the youth, also the women and the young girls, and the education, and the people with special needs. Do you feel that really empowering these sectors will reflect on the larger sort of image and the larger spectrum of the Egyptian society?
Yeah, definitely. Especially that we're focusing on women empowerment, and we're focusing on involving and merging special needs. So because special needs can contribute to better solutions in the society. They cannot, I mean, we used to perceive them as people who cannot really do anything or have an impact. But I guess with our president, it's becoming very different. And we see very successful stories related to special needs. For women, it's the same story. We're talking about women empowerment and what they can do and how they can contribute. I think they're helping a lot.
Yes.
I'm not biased, I'm just stating facts.
Dr. Lbib, now, with your experience, you've been in touch with many different sectors of the Egyptian societies in different areas around the country and abroad as well. Now, trying to push for the developmental programs and projects here in Egypt, which sector do you feel that has really benefited the most and flourished under these social protection programs and these initiatives? And which sector do you feel needs more attention and more work because it's falling a little bit behind than other sectors and industries?
I guess based on my experience and my work, I'll be focusing on two main sectors. Again, healthcare and education. So regarding healthcare, I think things are getting much better because we're implementing the digital transformation, the digitization, and many technologies in this domain. So we're coming up with more and better and more proper diagnosis and prognosis and recommendations. Speaking of education, maybe we can, benefit or we can make use of the internet technologies in a much better way. Because since now we're just talking about the e-learning systems, maybe if we can apply the artificial intelligence more, we'll be able to help the special needs in many educational programs. So I guess these two industry sectors are very important.
Yes. Well, those two sectors, as you've mentioned, there are continuously developing sectors. The technologies, the science behind everything is continually really developing. As you've mentioned, I mean, Egypt as well is really embarking on the age of the digital age, digitalization, artificial intelligence, as you've mentioned. And you also mentioned that it could be a way of applying the AI, and you're a professor of artificial intelligence, so applying artificial intelligence and digitalization in not just the learning process, the educational process, also taking care of the health of the Egyptian citizen, and also at the same time be able to make money through it.
Yes, definitely. Maybe that's a way to fight the economic problems that we're facing nowadays. It's not only trying to decrease the costs, as we say, but trying to increase the income. So if we apply the artificial intelligence, we'll be able to educate our youth and we'll be able to provide them with better job opportunities, especially that nowadays, after the coronavirus, they're able to work remotely. So applying these or making use of these technologies will make them more eligible to fulfilling the qualifications required in such jobs, and hence having a better income, which might be kind of a solution for the economic problems and the economic crisis.
Well, a lot of people are saying that actually we have a great caliber of young graduates and a great caliber of engineers, but they always seem to be snatched by different countries and the international world, and the youth are always very ambitious, and it's not easy for them to really go against the temptation of trying to explore the world and really make use of their experience and their knowledge here in Egypt. How can we make sure we keep all our bright engineers and graduates here?
Involving them in projects. I guess that's the solution, because we have very high caliber. And by the way, I'm a professor of artificial intelligence in one of the governmental universities in India, and I can tell you that our youth are not, they're the best. Okay, comparing between them and other nationalities, with all my respect to all nationalities, of course, and especially in the IT field. So if you involve them in some national projects, then you increase their sense of belonging to the country and you can benefit from their skills. Especially that we have many initiatives nowadays from the Ministry of Telecommunications trying to educate the youth, giving them the many certificates related to digital transformation and to artificial intelligence, and some of the initiatives even provide them with master's degree and PhD degrees in many well-known and very high-ranked universities. So they're already capable of doing so.
Yes. Dr. Lebib, now you're also involved in the educational field, and over the past few years we've established many universities that are specialized in information communication technology, artificial intelligence, technical education and training in different parts of the country. And even though they could be considered public or governmental universities and schools, but they are on par with the private universities that seem to always have a bit of an edge than other governmental universities. How do you feel this sort of boom in the educational field with the introduction of the universities and the students now? I mean, they're not just like concerned with they either want to be doctors or engineers. There's a new whole spectrum of sciences that students are interested in.
Actually, I'm very happy to see that nowadays we have what we call the multidisciplinary programs. And these programs are sometimes accredited from other universities, again, high-ranked universities. So we're providing our students with knowledge and with skills from many different countries. And that's very important for the youth. They need exposure, not only to teach them courses in the traditional way, but to provide them with exposure to other cultures, to other mindsets.
Yes.
I guess that's more important for them in order to be able to be creative and to help in solving the problems in the society. And by the way, that's the ultimate goal of universities.
Yes.
Sometimes we tell them that students should be focusing on problems related to their community. But in order to do so, you need to provide them again with some information, some knowledge, some skills, some wisdom, as we say, that they can gain from the exposure to other cultures and other mindsets. That's what's already going on in Egypt.
Yes.
With these new universities and with these new multidisciplinary programs. Like, for example, what we, when we talk about medical informatics, that's embedding the artificial intelligence and many IT programs in the medical field. And you have many other programs like the medical informatics. And that's important again, because nowadays, worldwide, we're not talking about colleges. We're talking about programs,
yes,
which is a quite different perception of education.
Well, if we're talking about students, then on the other side of it, there are also teachers and professors, and the presidential initiatives and governmental platforms are also trying to take care and look after the teachers and make sure they are up to the standards. And there are platforms, the teacher platform where you can get more accreditation, more specialized training for the teachers. Do you feel that we're also making the most of these initiatives and these platforms to not just develop the student, but also develop the skills and capabilities of the Egyptian professor and teacher?
Actually, we're focusing on both, because teachers and professors are a main stakeholder in the educational super system, as we call it. Because if you do not have a talented teacher,
yes,
then you can never have a talented student. Okay, that was a core issue for us.
yes,
So focusing on improving the skills of delivering the material, because it's not only preparing the class and then giving a lecture. No, it's communicating with your students.
Yes.
That's what really counts for them.
yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, definitely a lot of initiatives, a lot of programs and platforms are aiming to secure and improve the living standards of citizens. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back to continue our discussion.
state is to go ahead with the implementation of the strategy set by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to achieve overall development and improve living standards of needy people despite challenges prompted by the global crises within the framework of Egypt's Vision 2030 for sustainable development. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said Egypt needs £70 trillion to achieve the aspirations of Egyptians for a decent standard of living. The head of state noted that Egypt has faced the repercussions of the Russian-Ukrainian war by increasing social protection measures. President further stated Egypt will still deal with these repercussions, and the economic reforms it had undertaken enabled it to withstand the global crisis. He said the managing of the crisis was based in the first place on efforts to reduce its direct impacts on citizens by implementing an integrated series of social protection measures and working to reduce the waves of inflation that have hit the world and cast a shadow. In parallel with those measures, the state has worked to boost the role of the private sector, attract direct foreign investments to support macroeconomic indicators. The state also implemented initiatives and strategies to localize industries and support exports, as well as reduce the balance of the trade deficit, which is directly reflected in the value of the annual import bill. President el-Sisi also instructed all state institutions to give development in Upper Egypt top priority, especially in the fields of health and education, in parallel with mega projects. The state is keen on securing the requirements of social protection, health and education programs, whilst allocations for social protection programs are increasing during the current fiscal year. The government also is seeking to develop these programs to provide more protection for vulnerable people. The country's newly introduced social protection package went into effect last September to help Egyptians cope with the global repercussions of the Russian-Ukrainian war. The government announced last July the provision of an exceptional package of programs for low-income citizens in cooperation with civil society organizations, as per directives by President el-Sisi.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, continuing our discussion with Dr. Lebib. Now, Doctor, we've been talking about all the social protection programs, the presidential initiatives and the governmental efforts, really trying to alleviate the standard of living of the Egyptian citizen, and it's all part and parcel from achieving the Egyptian vision of meeting all the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, by 2030. Now, there are about 16 goals, and some of these SDGs, they deal with the rights for women, the educational one, the innovation of it, taking care of all these things. Which of those SDGs do you feel needs much more work through these presidential initiatives and programs?
Actually, all of them are very important, as you just mentioned there, 16, and then the 17th goal is about the partnership.
Yes.
But maybe we can focus on SDG 16, which is providing peace and having people feel that they're living in a fair country.
Yes.
And that's very important. And this can be done through awareness programs. We need to help them identify the problems that were already solved by our government and the vision of our beloved country and what our president did for them. Sometimes you have to focus on the success stories to make them feel that there is a hope, since we already achieved many success. That's in my opinion. So maybe we should focus on achieving this specific goal. Because for the other goals, like the poverty, like discrimination between or based on gender, I don't think that we're having any trouble in this part, this discrimination. And specific, what else? The healthcare is much better nowadays with the healthcare, the insurance programs. Education is much better than what used to be. So I think maybe we can focus on this last one,
Yes.
before focusing on the partnership in order to achieve all of the 16 goals.
Yes. Well, we've seen a lot of campaigns regarding family planning, sexual harassment and sexual mutilation for women. A lot of these, the importance of education and fighting illiteracy. I mean, we've seen campaigns all over the media for a few years now. Do we still need to do we need to take it a step further? Do we need to increase those campaigns? What seems to be the challenge? Because there is a response from the Egyptian citizens, but it's not the desired response that everyone is hoping for. So is it an issue of cultural acceptance? Is it the pessimism, as you've mentioned before? We've seen success stories of sports personalities, in the entertainment field, scholars, doctors, scientists, authors. So what else do we need to do? What problem is it?
Again, we need to change the mindset. As you just mentioned, it's cultural aspects. We need to make people think in a different way. That's why I was very happy about embedding the critical thinking questions in schools, because people have to learn how to think. Okay, and that's kind of a skill that we lack. Okay, and that's, you know, unfortunately. So we need to focus on this point. We need to make them explore other cultures. We need to change their mindset. And this cannot be done unless we change the educational systems and unless we make use of the media.
Yes.
Because media is very powerful.
Yes. Dr. Lbib, now you've mentioned some of the challenges that we have, but also a global challenge is climate change. And we're now taking into consideration the green energy, going for green hydrogen, green ammonia, trying to make use of the electrical power plants that we have, the wind and solar plants that we have, and we're really trying to turn our economy into a green, environmentally friendly economy. And we're doing this in the midst of our development programs and projects and the new cities, the fourth generation cities, along with transforming or the transition into a digital age and applying artificial intelligence in our daily life. So do you feel that trying to incorporate all of these things all at the same time, does it make it easier to try and do this right now as we are establishing and building all these national projects? We're basically building for a future for Egypt. Or do you feel that with all the international circumstances, it's making it very hard to try and achieve all of these things at the same time?
Okay, again, I see it in a very optimistic way. We've got many challenges that we're facing nowadays, but on the other hand, we have opportunities related to the partnership between different countries and different entities, and the implementation, again, of the technology. So, for example, if you take technology into consideration, then applying artificial intelligence related to climate change might be very beneficial. So if you make use of the prediction, what we call the predictive analytics, then you will be able to predict what will be going on in the next decade, for example, and then coming up with prescriptive analytics, which is some scenarios in order to avoid the bad impact and working on good impacts of this climate change.
Yes.
So if you adopt science, especially when you talk about data science, then we can apply what we call the data-driven planning. Hence, you can come up with plan A and plan B in order to cope with the problems that you might encounter. But again, a main challenge is the awareness. We need to make people aware. We need to make our youth and women and all of the society aware of simple measures that they can make in order to contribute to a better world and a better way to deal with climate change. So again, we need to focus on the media.
Yes. Well, we will definitely be focusing on the media, but the idea of, because it seems that digitalization and artificial intelligence is becoming an integral part in the developmental projects and programs, the SDGs, the future of the health and educational sector, even agriculture and industry. So how far have we come in really mastering the artificial intelligence sector? I mean, do we still have a long way to go to not just theoretically study it and understand it, but also trying to implement it in our daily life, in these projects, in our health care system, in our educational system? How far do we have to go to actually, or how long will it take till we actually master the implementation of these theories of artificial intelligence, for instance?
Maybe we can apply the SWOT analysis, so talking about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We can have a more comprehensive view of what's going on in Egypt. So you will find many strengths, many strong points related to having youth that are educated in the special discipline, having a will to apply the artificial intelligence, having about 42 new smart cities that we're working on in Egypt, and that's a huge number, by the way. So these are some strong points. And you have, on the other hand, some, let's say, weak points related to the IT infrastructure, related to people having some phobia of being replaced by the intelligence systems. That's a phobia for them. Whenever I go to teach artificial intelligence, I'm always faced with this question: do you want to replace us? And that's in different disciplines. And we assure them that we're looking to support, not to replace. But on the other hand, talking about opportunities like funds coming from different entities, like new technologies, like having some what we call the freeware, free software that's available, and having again the threats of the security. Whenever we talk about the digitization or digitalization or digital transformation, then people are very, they're scared that what if they're being hacked, especially that we're talking about a country, not about only personal data, which is an issue, by the way. So facing the security, facing the confidentiality issues, facing the privacy issues, these are some of the threats that we're encountering. So if you see it from all, from these 4 points, then maybe you can say that we're already working on it, but it will take, from my point of view, for example, in the healthcare systems, I guess we're talking about 2 to 3 years, because we already started. We already have some robots that are doing surgery. We have many programs that are working from point of view to have or to provide a proper and a more proper diagnosis. And we're talking about discovering new treatment and discovering new drugs, especially with the genome project. That's a huge project that's being led by Egypt. We're talking about a huge project related to Africa, not only to Egypt, and we're tackling the genomics, the genes. How can you make use of genes in order to get to know the most common diseases that we might be facing? We call them risk factors, and planning in order to be able to avoid these diseases or to deal with this disease by providing, let's say, equipment, providing medicines, and so on. So maybe 2 to 3 years in the medical field, but maybe more years in the other industries.
Well, Dr. Lbib, you travel around the world quite often, and you are experienced with some of these challenges also being faced around the world. And these challenges, as you've mentioned, the skepticism from citizens concerning their cybersecurity and hacking and trusting the artificial intelligence or being afraid to be replaced by them. It is a global thing. I mean, people in different countries worry about that. Maybe they have an older or much more experience in tackling them. So my question is, which of the countries should we be looking at their own experience and maybe trying to learn from some of these experiences and lessons? And which countries should we look for in terms of cooperation, in terms of learning from their know-how and their expertise?
I would go for India and United Arab Emirates. because I see that we have many common factors with them. Like India, for example, they're very advanced in the IT field, so we can benefit from their success stories and their failures as well. And when we talk about the UAE, then we're talking about another Arab country that was able to be very successful in the Arab world in this specific field. So maybe we can benefit from different cooperation, whether in terms of new programs, new educational programs, or new training programs for the government.
Yes. One final question, because we're running out of time, Dr. Lbib. Now, Egypt has its own national committees, national programs for climate change, for the Egyptian family, for women's rights, for sustainable development, for all of these things. Which or what else do we need to make sure that we're not just cooperating with the rest of the international communities in tackling these challenges, but also making sure that we have our own national efforts trying to boost and reach the SDGs by 2030?
As you just mentioned, that we should work on family planning because that's a main challenge. So, and again, family planning is kind of, you need to change the mindset, taking it, because our culture does not really approve the family planning. So maybe we should work on it and talking to people that this is a main challenge that's affecting the achievement of all of the 17 goals that we should achieve by 2030.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, as you've just heard from Dr. Lbib, I mean, there are many challenges Egypt is working on overcoming, all of them at different paces, obviously, and we're also facing international challenges that are not just hitting Egypt, but the whole world, and we're trying to make sure that we are moving and pushing forward in the right direction. But it really starts with the cultural aspects of it and the Egyptian citizen themselves, and it starts really from the Egyptian home and family, as Dr. Lbib has mentioned. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate, but before we go, I'd like to thank my distinguished guest, Dr. Naveen Mukram Lbib, the Director of the Social and Cultural Planning Center at the Institute of National Planning. Dr. Lbib, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Night International. I'm Henny Saif. Thank you for joining us.